Oh, hi! As you can see, I have here me beautiful model of Jupiter C rocket, which, as you may know, launched the first American artificial satellite Explorer 1 into Earth orbit on February 1st, 1958. And of course, this was a huge achievement back in the day, but I'm not showing you this model to brag about it. I just thought it would be a great introduction to an episode where I'll be going back to my greatest childhood passion, model rocketry. So in this video I'm gonna show you how to build flying rocket with camera on board from scratch. So let's not waste any more time and get down to business. I'm starting work on preparing the rocket's fuselage. I would like to thank to my colleague Christian for giving me a cardboard tube that will work perfectly as a fuselage for the rocket. In addition to the cardboard tube from a friend, I use another one slightly thicker to which the stabilizers and the engine compartment will be mounted. To prevent the rockets from being too long, which could adversely affect stability during flight, I cut off a piece of the upper fuselage. I will use the shorter piece of tube I cut off to freely connect the two parts of the rocket's fuselage, because during descent after flight the fuselage must separate into two pieces and fall freely on a parachute. The two fuselage sections must be perfectly fitted together. This ensures that the entire rocket remains stable during flight, and the rocket is separated into two halves by an explosive charge located within the lower fuselage. Thus, the upper part of the rocket will be pushed away by the explosion of the charge in a lower part, and for this process to take place effectively, the connection of two sections must be tight enough to make the rocket stable, but also loose enough to allow the expanding explosive gases to push the two parts of the rocket body away from each other. The lower and upper part of the rocket's fuselage will be connected by a cable so that after separation they will remain connected as they fall to the ground. For the entire separation process to take place, the lower end of the upper fuselage must be plugged. This will cause the expanding exhaust gases to push it back, much like a piston in an internal combustion engine after the fuel-air mixture ignites. In the upper part of the rocket's fuselage, I prepared a space for the onboard camera. I cut a hole in this section for the camera's viewfinder and then mounted a camera shelf. So as you can see, the upper stage of the rocket was ready for painting. I decided to paint it with white spray paint. While the painting is drying on the upper stage of the rocket, I can start making the stabilizers that will be attached to the rocket's propulsion section. The rocket will have three stabilizers made of cardboard and then wrapped with black assembly tape. The stabilizers are mounted to the fuselage using adhesive tape and a hot glue. The stabilizers must be mounted as closely as possible along the fuselage longitudinal axis. This is crucial for stable rocket flight and, for example, for eliminating the rocket's rotation along its own roll axis. And as you can see, the hot glue will easily secure the stabilizers to the fuselage. As you can see, the paint on the rocket's upper stage has dried and the stabilizers are also glued to the lower stage, so now we need to connect the two stages with a cable. To do this, I made a small hole in the lower stage of the rocket. Then from the inside I threaded a cable through this hole, connecting the two stages. I glued the end of the cable to the lower fuselage so that it wouldn't obstruct airflow along the rocket. Next thing I need to do is to drill a hole in the lower stage of the rocket just above the engine section, through which I will install an explosive charge, which will separate the rocket stages and trigger the parachute launch. In my case, the explosive charge consists of two firecrackers with a delay fuse. Another important element of the fuselage structure is the rocket nose. So I made the rocket's nose as a cone from rolled up cardboard. For reinforcement, I also wrapped it with tape, filled it with hot glue and added a nut as a weight, which should positively impact the balance of the entire structure. It is very important to check if the cone is symmetrical. I checked this with a ruler. Once the glue inside the cone has cured, the entire rocket nose is mounted on a stand. The stand is a plastic end cap from the tube from which the rocket's upper stage is made. This provides added convenience because the nose can be easily removed during pre-launch preparations or to activate the onboard camera. While gluing the nose of the rocket to the base, I smooth out the excess hot glue at the same time. This way I will achieve the most uninterrupted airflow along the nose of the rocket. And then the rocket nose should be painted with varnish, in my case white. After the work on the rocket's fuselage is completed, I can begin assembling the engines, as I'm using 3 model rocket engines in this project. In this particular case, I'm using 3 D9 motors with a total impulse of 20 Newton-seconds each. These motors are readily available at any modeling store. In order to place the engines firmly and tightly in the rear of the rocket, I use additional cardboard inserts and then glue them to each of the engines. To prevent the motors from moving upward during takeoff, I tighten the 3 screws that secure the motors in place. Okay, but if you want to see the onboard camera's images, we need 2 systems that will safely bring the rocket down. For this purpose, it's best to use a parachute. I will make parachute canopy from thin plastic. This will make the parachute lightweight and take up minimal space in the rocket's fuselage. I attach lines to the 4 corners of the parachute canopy and then connect them together. The parachute is ready. It's that simple as that. All that's left is quick test on the ground to see if the parachute working properly. Okay, the parachute is working. Time to install it in the rocket. I attach the parachute to the line connecting both stages of the rocket, closer to the upper stage, which should make it easier for the parachute canopy to open properly during ejection from the cargo hold. And now all that's left is to install the engines and the explosive charge for parachute deploy. Then assemble the rocket and test it in flight, of course. As I mentioned earlier, the parachute opens after firecrackers are ignited. The firecrackers fuse burns for 5 seconds and it ignites on the ground just before the main engine start. Okay, let's not forget to mount your onboard camera before takeoff. It would be a shame to miss the opportunity to capture potentially cool footage from about 600 to 700 meters above the ground. Okay folks, that's it. We've built a completely amateur rocket with an onboard camera for under $40. Now it's time to find a cool place to launch the rocket from. Okay folks, here we are, and here will be our spaceport. The picturesque Wieprz river flows nearby, so I'm hoping for some nice shots from onboard camera. Okay, so not waste any more time and let's prepare our rocket for launch. I use standard electric igniters to start the engines, one for each of the 3 rocket engines, and of course 12-volt battery. Okay folks, rocket is ready for launch. I will activate parachute fuse and my friend Eric will activate rocket engines. We'll fly to the moon and beyond. Okay, you ready?
Ready, let's go.
Let's go, let's do this. Już! Yeah! Woo! Parachute. Oh, damage. Okay. Despite initial turbulence in the first phase of the flight, immediately after leaving the launch pad, the rocket continued vertical ascent throughout the longer phase of the flight, landing approximately 300 meters from the launch site, which is not so bad results. As you can see in the video, the rocket survived the flight. Only the parachute, which was a little burned by gases from the exploding firecrackers, requires replacement. So a new parachute, new engines and another flight is possible as well. Since I thought it would be a nice addition to the video, I decided to include some photos from the onboard camera. These photos gives a better sense of the surrounding landscape than the chaotic footage of the rocket's flight. Okay, that's all in this video. I hope that you had at least a little bit that fandom watching me build and launch rocket. If I inspired you to take up model rocketry, I'll be incredibly happy. So of course, if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like, leave a comment, and see you soon in the next episode of DIY Retro Channel.